Very good morning to you. Welcome along to Wednesday morning's OTB AM. We're here with you all the way until about 9:30 this morning, and maybe a little bit longer, who knows, because there's plenty to talk about. A big night of Champions League action last night, a very big night of Champions League action tonight, and of course from about 9 o'clock this morning, the Dáil committee, the Oireachtas committee, is going to be pretty busy talking about governance in Irish sport after the bombshell that came yesterday from Sport Ireland when they announced they were withholding the second tranche of funding for the FAI. Johnny Ward, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ger. How are you keeping?
I'd rather be talking about football. It'd be good to be just talking about Man United and Barcelona, but unfortunately we're talking about the politics of the FAI, and it's all over the front and back pages. This has got that story that has crossover appeal of day after day after day of front page, and then boom, yesterday.
Yeah, I was involved in looking into a few things in horse racing before, and I remember I was working with the Irish Independent at the time, and you end up as a soccer or racing journalist, whatever, you end up writing in conjunction with the news reporter, and it's a strange territory, so you're literally going to other parts of the building to meet the newsroom.
Hello, and how are you?
How do you work?
I can spell, don't worry.
Yeah, and it's maybe a bit more sort of nuanced, I suppose, but you can see that that's the case with some of the sports journalists in the papers this morning.
They're all joint bylined.
Yeah, as I was coming in at 7 o'clock this morning, top story and the radio report was this. You say it's unfortunate we're talking about it, but it's good that this is happening. I think Irish football needs this so badly. I genuinely believe it's the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we already know. I think the FAI needs to be held account for the way the organisation has been run. There are so many questions to answer. What happens in the Oireachtas committee today? I've seen Oireachtas committee meetings before, bizarrely, and they can be quite dysfunctional in the sense of what's actually allowed to be said, and it's quite easy to go off on a tangent and avoid questions. I don't think that's going to happen here because there's so much going on, and as well as that, I think the media has done a good job in terms of bringing this to the fore, despite the fact that it hasn't been that easy to report on the FAI in some respects. So as much as you say it's a bad thing, I think Irish football possibly is in the midst of a slight revolution at the moment, and overall it's a good thing. We've
got Fergus O'Dowd he's the chair of that joint committee. He's going to join us in studio in about 10 minutes time. Let me tell you what's coming up on the show, because it is a very busy show. We are going to talk football. Andy Mitten's going to join us a little bit later on. He's got like a 12-page feature in the current issue of 442 talking about what the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era is going to look like. He had some pretty interesting information in that Ferguson is sitting down with Solskjaer once a week. Solskjaer is leaning into the Ferguson era properly, and I guess trading off the back of the fact that he understands exactly how that worked and what the point of that was, whereas obviously that was not something Mourinho and Van Gaal were going to do. Good idea, bad idea?
I had reservations about it. Ferguson is 77 now, without trying to be ageist. I'm just wondering, does he need to talk to Ferguson all the time?
Is it not about just making sure that everybody sees your link and you're not scared of this?
Yeah.
Do you know, whereas Van Gaal would have been, David Moyes would have been terrified of being overshadowed by him, and then never lived up to it. Mourinho would have been like, screw you, I'm too big. But actually, if he is just a nice, benevolent old man, what's the worst that can happen? And if he is still somebody who's got this amazing football knowledge, just tap into it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the amazing football knowledge at this stage. I mean, the game has probably evolved a lot even since Fergie left. What is
ball's still around, Johnny.
What?
The ball is still around.
The ball is still around, but Mourinho, you could argue the game has passed him by in some respects in terms of philosophy. But Solskjaer, I think, is very cunning as well. I think he plays the diplomatic game very well, and there's nothing wrong in terms of his image with speaking to Ferguson. What he derives from it, we've seen post Matt Busby that it's tricky when you have that hovering presence in the corner, but Solskjaer, to be fair to him, obviously he has a bit of collateral in terms of his role there. I think the Solskjaer story is going to be really interesting because he's gotten the job now.
I think it's doomed to failure.
I'd have reservations because I think the players were trying to impress him. They needed a lift after Mourinho. I'm just not sure it's going to work out because I'm not sure he has the managerial clout to actually make it work. I genuinely don't know, but I think he was fortunate to get the job.
I think he's going to burn Paul Pogba out this summer.
You reckon?
I think, yeah.
As a kind of a leader comes in and he makes a purge of intent and that's it.
Well, because he had that relationship with Pogba from the time when he was coaching him as an underage, and it's like, I totally understand it, but I also understand that, you are more about your brand, and that's fair enough because you're a professional footballer and you've got to make money, and that's your job. You can do that for Real Madrid, and I'm going to spend that money on players who I trust. Now, whether or not he gets good players in, that ultimately decides the success or failure of it. But I think that in the summer he's going to put his stamp on that dressing room, and there will be his guys in there who do his way of thinking. And I'd say there's probably a few of those people already who he's identified. So I wouldn't be surprised it was a fairly significant turnover.
Yeah, if I were him, I'd probably get rid of Pogba because I just think he's too much of a negative influence. But his brand, as you say, is so big. The club may not be too keen on that. But Pogba, it's too much about Pogba, and he's too inconsistent as well.
You're just renting that brand for a little while, though. You understand
that's true.
that, like, you know, you can get somebody else who will build. So if you turn Marcus Rashford into a global brand, which you probably could do, but he is absolutely a product of your youth team and wants to be there and wants to be one of your leaders.
And Andy Mitten will know that very well as well. He's spoken about that. Pogba, for me, in terms of the dressing room, I'd imagine he's not a particularly kind of favourable influence at times, and I think that's probably a fair shout. I think Solskjaer could well do that, and it also is a kind of a signal of, I'm the manager here, you can go screw yourself, nobody's bigger than the club, including me.
Very important message for a manager to get out there who's like who isn't one of the world leaders who has been hired specifically for the job, who got the job on an interim basis and like, actually, you're not bad.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Pochettino last night produce what looked a great managerial performance at such a big stage. It was just a reminder that you did have other options apart from Solskjaer.
Yeah, especially when they're beating City. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Martin Lipton's going to join us. He literally wrote the book on White Hart Lane, so we'll get his take on the new stadium and the amazing start that Spurs have had there. Right, we've teamed up with Leia Healthcare, the official health and wellbeing partner to Leinster Rugby, to launch Wellbeing Wednesday for the next 9 weeks. One lucky winner per week will win a Blue Book voucher for 250 quid for your very own wellbeing retreat. All 9 winners will then go into a draw, and one lucky winner will receive a wellbeing hamper and a Leinster season ticket for the 2019-2020 season. To enter, just answer this question. Tell us how many points Gordon Darcy scored during his Leinster career. This is the one you're going to have to Google, I suspect. How many points did Gordon Darcy score during his Leinster career? Send us your answer on any of our OTB social channels. Just make sure you use the hashtag It's Good to Live. So hashtag It's Good to Live. That's how we search if you're on YouTube or Facebook, or indeed if you're on Twitter this morning. We're looking for Gordon Darcy's total number of points scored for Leinster. Here's the papers. All right, so we're going to have to do the front of the papers and the back of the papers. The subs are in good form overnight. The books stop here. State pull 3 million support. Technically not 3 million, but anyway, FAI funding halted ahead of Oireachtas quiz today. Dunphy, it's like private club, and we need answers. The questions that Eamon Dunphy wants answered, I'll bring them to you in a couple of minutes. Back page, son of a gun. City stunned by Spurs. Heung-Min Son gave Spurs a vital Champions League edge on a night of VAR drama at the new White Hart Lane. Can we stop calling the VAR and get to VAR and shorten our lives by... There's like the endless hours that we're going to end up talking about.
Yeah.
VAR. Let's just call it VAR. Come on.
VAR, it's definitely going to happen because we always make things shorter just for ease. But VAR is definitely shortening my life if they're going to make decisions like that last night. Sure. I mean, and then the unfortunate thing is so many people still think that was a penalty. I mean, does anyone play football thinking that, like as somebody said last night, a fish that's basically out of the water, that's flopping on the top of the boat is how players should play anymore, that their hands just can't, I don't know. Anyway, it's going to annoy me. I prefer your headline from the start, but Pay think it's all over from the Sun. Sport Ireland pulls cash, Delaney faces TD grilling, and then at the back, so lonely. I like that. FAI faces grilling, Sonny and Scare, Hero Hyun after Kane KO, and of course I
get it now.
Yeah, the tackle on Kane,
Sonny and Scare.
Yeah, that Sonny and Cher.
It's a good 1970s very with it reference that is way over the head of most of the, maybe not, maybe that's the Sun readers now are like, oh yeah, Sonny and Cher, innit?
So I don't know how they come up with these headlines so late at night with deadlines. But
Sonny died like
I'm not
20 years ago.
I'm not going to let on. I know much about Sonny and Cher, but what did you make of the tackle on Kane?
I mean, the picture looks pretty bad. When you everything in slow motion looks bad, but it's like ooh, and he's Pochettino says afterwards he's screwed, that it's the rest of the season more than likely.
It's one of those ones that you can't be definite. Like it happens quickly, and in real time it really didn't look so bad, but it looked a bit of a cowardly tackle, to be fair.
And apparently it was in retribution for a late tackle from Harry Kane as well. So
yeah. That's retribution and retribution. You could break a lad's leg doing that.
Yeah, but did Harry Kane, did he deserve a bit of retribution? Is there like an element in football where everybody's going...
Kick someone, but don't try to break his leg.
Yeah, fair enough. Kick him in the shin. FAI keen to restore trust as funding frozen. Emmett Malone has the front page story on the Times, and then And then it's just the match reports really, and talking about VAR. Liverpool, a routine 2-0 win. Again, Salah could have been sent off for going over the ball.
I think that was a blatant red card. Again, it probably looked a bit worse in the sense that he kind of did go for the ball, but it's that cowardly nature of where you put your studs, and 100% VAR, that's a red card. And that changes everything really, to be fair. It probably would have changed everything, and it would have given Porto a chance of getting a goal back. Liverpool they got a good draw. They've made the most of it.
Yeah.
They created lots of chances. They look at Man City now in a little bit of trouble. Liverpool could definitely win the Champions League this year.
Delaney's £100,000 loan costs FAI grassroots $1 million. Sport Ireland cuts funding over finance concerns ahead of Crunch Showdown. Fine Gael TD criticised Oireachtas committee colleague over FAI comments last year. So the Noel Rock story in the middle of all this, apparently there's an intertextual exchange between himself and John Delaney, which is Rock asking for tickets to be sorted. Delaney texting back saying, yeah, I'll sort you. Delaney critic Rock texted FAI boss in bid to get tickets.
Yeah, I read that like with a bit of unease, because like I think all of us at some stage or other like look to get tickets for something or other, and if we get them we feel great and all that. But you know, the timing of that leak in terms of Rock's texting was pretty suspicious, for want of a better word.
Well, I think it's a correspondence that the FAI are putting forward to the committee, which is fair enough. Like, so I mean, like, are you really going to sit here in judgment on me when you're like, you know,
yeah, I
texting
don't.
me for tickets?
Yeah, I think
maybe you are.
In terms of if you want to elect Rock the next day he goes for election, you can make your judgment on that. But I don't think it really changes the nature of the questions he's asking.
Humiliation, cut in funding discredits FAI, insists Sadler. Richie Sadler believes the FAI should be embarrassed at having their Sport Ireland funding axed.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I when I read that yesterday, I did genuinely believe this is the beginning of the end for the FAI's board, because this is something that, as the Independent shows, and they put it quite starkly, it's, you know, grassroots football is being at a loss of $1 million here, and I think this is the sort of thing where when you need regime change, this is going to be a strong help in that regard. I have the Times here as well. Sport Ireland suspends FAI funding over Delaney loan, and on the back, Sun puts Spurs in charge. Rock calls on sponsors to pressure FAI. That was an interesting one. The aforementioned Rock, you know, basically saying to put pressure on sponsors. We've seen sponsors kind of do call the shots in many ways. I think if the sponsors pulled out, it would have another, you know, major effect on what's going on. The Times claimed, I think yesterday, that 2 FAI board members want the former CEO to leave, but they need 4 more in order for that to happen. They need a majority of 1, which is 6 of the 10, and that doesn't seem to be very likely at the moment.
All right. The one thing, couple of quick stories in the papers that I wanted to talk to you about was, you know, on a day like this, where do you go other than the Star to find out what Eamon Dunphy has to say? And he's got a column. He's in the front of the paper. That's how important it is. They've promoted him to page 5 today. It's FAI must reckon with the fallout. And Dunphy is like, you know, run like a private club, can't be doing that, not good for the game. If you're receiving 2.7 million of taxpayers' money every year, you have to be open and transparent, and you have to conform with good governance habits. So far, so good. Absolutely. He's got questions that he wants answered. What are those questions? The FAI have been caught red-handed by the story of the £100,000 loan, and they have yet to answer satisfactorily why they needed it in the first place. Why not seek an overdraft extension, or have a raffle, or go to Sport Ireland? And why didn't they inform Sport Ireland of their problems? These are questions that need to be answered. Why did the FAI not have a raffle and solve this whole problem?
Unbelievable.
You get out there, shake the few tin boxes, buy a ticket for our raffle. What's the prize?
He's been very weak on the issue, unfortunately.
First prize 2 tickets, second prize 10 tickets.
Yeah, in fairness, John Delaney does have, you know, he's a very charismatic character. I guess he's become friendly with a lot of people across the media and so on and so forth. But he needs to be stronger than that, Eamon Dunphy. This is a serious issue.
Having a raffle thing is like makes no sense.
I don't know.
Is it a joke?
Is it a joke?
Is it a joke? Am I missing the joke? Is everybody? Am I getting that gift with the joke flying over my head? Is that like, or is that actually he thinks that this is, you know, economically that?
I don't think there's an exclamation mark though.
There is not.
Can I bring up one last headline?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Tiger Roll.
Official Tiger is the best national winner. So Tiger Roll's historic national has been ranked the best performance in the race for 46 years, eclipsing Red Rum. But as I said to you, what's interesting about this is he's a rating of 172, which brings him right into Gold Cup territory, really. And on a line through Annabelle Fly, who gave him a little bit of weight, but was well beaten by him. Of course, Annabelle Fly finished second in the Gold Cup. If I owned Tiger Roll, I probably wouldn't be here this morning, but if I did own Tiger Roll, I would go for the Gold Cup.
You come in, you love this. You know,
I would come in. I don't really like getting up at 6:30. But once I get here, I see a lot of friendly faces, and it's time to get going.
So just explain this, because we were talking with Tom Malone yesterday. He didn't think it was going to be as high as this. He thought that actually one of the things the handicapper might do is make sure that Tiger Roll comes back next year and give him a little bit of a be like you're a dual winner of the national. Maybe we'd like to see you back for a third time.
Yeah, in fairness, they do that, but that's kind of to make the race a bit more. Like a bit classier, really, to encourage the better horses, because it wasn't always like that. But a handicapper does his job. Also, the fact the handicapping has changed since Phil Smith left. Possibly they do things a little bit differently. He was a bit of it was a bit hard character to agree with at times. But there's been an interesting kind of difference of opinion between Michael O'Leary and Gordon Elliott after the race, where Michael O'Leary sort of said, "No, would let him go out in a high next year without running the national." But Gordon Elliott was like, "Why not?" And I mean, why not go for 3 in a row? Why not? I know he'd have top weight, but I don't know if top weight would have stopped him last Saturday. He won with such ease, and
Red Rum was first, second, first for 5 years.
And
it's not bad.
The only thing about the race as well, I will say, that watching Magical Light come through one of the fences, they've changed it to such an extent now that it really, the jumping test is, you can brush through a lot of them you can nearly jump about 2/3 up and still get through them, because it's like kind of glorified twigs off a Christmas tree that you'll just manage easily. And it's not the biggest jumping test at all compared to what it was. I think it was definitely too strenuous, but at the moment I'm not sure it's strenuous enough. So and that's why Tiger Roll can...
You're predicting a Gold Cup next year for Tiger Roll?
I'm not predicting that, but I think they should definitely think about it, because why not? I mean, his rating gives him a chance, and he loves Cheltenham as well. We shouldn't forget that. And this horse, ridiculously for his age, he seems like he's actually a lot better this year than he was last year. I don't know why. And I have a theory that going over the cross-country obstacles has freshened up his mind, and he's just gotten to love the game a lot more, because he was a Triumph Hurdle winner, and generally he looked like he'd lost his confidence and he'd gone off the boil. But something happened, and at this stage of his life, there's hope for us all. For a horse who looked like he was one of those great miners, Ger, that never made it as a senior, but then he blossomed in his late 20s.
There you go. Yeah. The stereotypical late Irish bloomer. The drink ruins them early, and then they recover, and it's like, actually, you know what, I'm really good at this, I should have done it earlier. Here's Irish Independent football correspondent Dan McDonnell on Sport Ireland taking the nuclear option with the FAI yesterday.
The suspension of funding was almost like the nuclear option, and you got the sense from all the Sport Ireland delegates, I mean, John Tracy and Kieran Mulvey, they were the two who were maybe doing most of the speaking, that they really didn't want to do that. They didn't want to go that far. They knew that that kind of action has the knock-on impact of damaging the wrong people, or certainly, damaging sort of worthy projects on the ground that get a lot of the Sport Ireland funding. But, I mean, there was correspondence that came out since then, and the FAI statement yesterday, which I guess highlighted flaws and problems with the interaction between the two bodies. So maybe reading some of that correspondence yesterday is not that much of a surprise, but last Wednesday it didn't seem like they were going to go this way at all.
It's 8:05. You're watching OTB AM this morning, or you're listening to us live on offtheball.com. Fergus O'Dowd is here with us. He's the chair of the Oireachtas committee, which the FAI will be before today. Just to clarify some stuff, you're welcome back, by the way.
Thank you very much. Good to be here,
before the Sport Ireland guys were up before you. Does Sport Ireland need to come back before you guys today? Is that what happens?
No, the Sport Ireland come back next Tuesday.
Okay.
Next Tuesday afternoon. Sport Ireland and Minister Shane Ross are coming. We've already arranged that, see what the fallout from today is and where we go from there. So we're focused on getting outcomes and working with, obviously, the Minister in Sport Ireland and with the FAI if we can to get the outcome that everybody wants, is greater governance, transparency, accountability.
let's have a quick recap. So last week you were in before Sport Ireland came in. Did that go as you anticipated? Was that, did they?
Well, the point that you made to me last week was that people asked questions, they didn't make speeches. I think that worked well. It'll be the same today. Obviously, there's higher octane in the room today. We have 9 people coming from the FAI. But like, it's going to be the same, and obviously we've met as a committee, we've discussed the questions we can, the questions we can't ask, and we've gone through all of that. We're aware of the Supreme Court issues in relation to the mood or the tone of the meeting, the respect for the witnesses and the way that you question them. So we hope to be very professional and fair, and obviously in a way that will make people, give honest and open answers. That's what we want.
Can you just explain a little bit about that? Because I'd say a lot of people are kind of beginning to wake up to the importance of Oireachtas committees and how hamstrung they were by the vote that we collectively made. Whenever that was, a decade ago at this point, nearly. And so the Supreme Court at the moment are ruling about a previous issue.
That's right.
At the Oireachtas committees, which will limit your ability to broaden the scope.
Basically what happened was the Supreme Court found that the committee chair, it was a Public Accounts Committee, not my committee, I'm glad to say, didn't act properly and appropriately in fairness in terms of the questions that they asked, the way they asked the questions, the breaks they gave to the witnesses and all of that. So we're dealing with that. There will be a break every 2 hours. If witnesses want to stop at any stage, we certainly facilitate that. There will be a break for lunch, and they will be shown respect. They will be shown, obviously, fair questioning, robust questioning, but fair. And I think, it's not a court, it's not a star chamber, it's not going to be a talking shop either. So it's going to be a difficult enough day, but I'm looking forward to it, and I think it's going to be good for democracy in action. And hopefully it'll be a positive outcome.
It's great that he can look after sport in this country as well, where football is basically on the line here in this country in terms of what happens here today, I think, to an extent.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. I mean, the key point is that all of the 2.9 million is aimed at young people, getting young people playing sports, giving them facilities, supporting them, upskilling them, looking after their mentors. That's all hugely important. That money stops it'll be August. The next tranche is due in August, so it will be from August the impact will be. The FAI are working with Sport Ireland as we speak. They will continue to support them to get governance changes, notwithstanding the fact that they won't be giving them any more money. But it's a big crisis. It's a very serious issue. And it's just, the whole country are watching this.
Yeah, it's front and back page news now for a number of weeks. It's not just a couple of days. Was it Alistair Campbell said if one of your ministers is on the front page for 3 or 4 days, they have to go. That was his advice to Tony Blair, but no one's gone just yet. So we'll see what happens. Can I just to talk about the specifics of what's gone on over the last week? So Sport Ireland came in. They said then that they would be reluctant to stop the funding.
They did, yes, yeah.
In front of the committee.
Yes, they did, yeah.
And then yesterday they stopped the funding. So something has happened in the meantime.
Yeah, they had a meeting on Friday. Sport Ireland met with the FAI on Friday, and they agreed at that meeting that they would be notice party to the terms of reference of the Mazars inquiry and the Grant Thornton and all of that. But then when the FAI gave us their opening statement, they said in that statement that they didn't follow the rules and the regulations in relation to the funding of the 100,000. So they had no choice but to stop the funding, I believe. I spoke to John Tracy yesterday, and he explained to me the background, and I fully support, and hopefully the committee will support his actions. It'll bring about change. It's a tough stand, but I think it needs to happen.
Because some of your committee colleagues were saying that they wished that perhaps they'd waited to do that until after the committee.
Yeah, well, that's a question of their timing, but they're entitled to do whatever they do. They had a meeting yesterday. Obviously, we would love for it didn't happen, but it has happened. So I think it focused the questions today.
Probably better that you know that it has happened rather than waiting till after.
Because we say, well, what are the changes now? Now, clearly, Sport Ireland have no confidence in you, right? That's the first point. They didn't say that last week. So what are you going to change? What needs to change? And there'll be appropriate questions to be asked, I believe. Okay,
so the Mazars inquiry is happening. The Grant Thornton auditors have been on site
9 days now.
Yeah, and so do we know if Grant Thornton have finished their process?
We don't know that. We
Okay.
can certainly ask them that.
And so if you're just wargaming this out, there's a potential the FAI come in and go, we can't comment on the 100 grand loan at the moment because Grant Thornton are currently going through our books, and we'll have that for you sometime in the future.
Yeah, well, the point is that today we'll have John Delaney in the room at this time, who he wrote the cheque. You'll have the board of the FAI who have accountability for governance about that cheque in the room. There's no reason why they shouldn't answer those questions. We can't compel them to. We can't force them to answer, but certainly the questions will be asked and repeatedly asked. We have to get to the bottom of this. That's what this meeting is about. That's our responsibility, notwithstanding the Grant Thornton and the Mazars. The fact is, it's a simple matter.
Why did you write this cheque?
Why did you write the cheque? What corporate governance was in place? Did the board know because we were told they all knew?
And then
now we know that they didn't all know. So they're appropriate questions. And I think what the people want out there, they want to have confidence in sport, confidence in the FAI. And to get that confidence restored, we need the answers today, I believe.
We talked a little bit about this in the past when you were in with us, about the power of the committee is almost to shine a light rather than to make a pronouncement.
We can't make a judgment. No, we shine the light.
Do you have a report? Because one of the select committees in the House of Commons, when they did their investigation into British cycling, for example, at the end they do write a report where they say the evidence given to us here was credible, the evidence given to us here, we're still wondering about that. Yeah. I guess with the Supreme Court stuff...
We can't make a judgment of what we can do and what we will do, and that's why we're having the meetings next week. And they came up with a meeting last week as well. What needs to change to make sport more accountable? What do sport
so you can make recommendations.
Need to do? Of course, like we say, what do you need to do, guys? You're not doing enough. You didn't act on this, you didn't act on that. I mean, there's not universal support for everything Sport Ireland did. Or, they didn't do enough, basically. They didn't ask enough questions. And then what process needs to be there? Do they need more legal powers? How do you look at the governance of sport organisations? And the question, something I think is important, outside directors coming in who change on the board. All these issues, I think they're very important because you guys have to have, if I was a parent, I want my kids to be playing the sport I'm proud of.
Yeah.
An organisation I can stand under the flag any day.
Yeah.
And you can't do that today, can you? Because it's not the problem. You can't.
At various stages, there were fairly significant moves to force the sports organisations to change their boards, and at one stage there was even a quota suggested. I think was it Brendan Griffin or was it before that even?
Yeah.
And it disappeared. You're like, this is a good idea. Just like sometimes you've got to force change on organisations which are by their very nature difficult and unwieldy. But if you say you're not getting your funding from the government unless you do this...
Yeah, there is corporate governance. There is a report that they've signed up to. I think it's 2021. But I think just changes needed before then, to be honest.
And I'm sorry, I'm not just having this about the FAI. I think the IRFU and the GAA definitely need to...
No, I know that. I mean, you need constant change to have. I think the way it is, power should be diffused to an organisation. It shouldn't be held by one individual or one group of individuals. And if it's held for 14, 15 years, it's not the way to do business.
I know FIFA is very wary of governments intervening in football bodies on the basis that in some, I suppose, maybe, for want of a better word, some third world countries that it can lead to corruption and that where the government gets involved. So that's one issue where the government is definitely wary of that and having too much of a role in the FAI's affairs. But we would definitely like to see, it's an old board, we would definitely like to see, I think from the Irish football family, we would definitely like to see a willingness from the board to change and to know that this is a lot more than one person. It's a lot more than John Delaney. The future of Irish football is at stake here. And I think today will shine a light on that. And I'm very interested in terms of not so much even John Delaney's response to things, but the other guys, what they'll say in terms of questions, because how unified they can be in terms of how fractured the statements have been, where they've contradicted each other in the last week or so.
Absolutely, and I think you're right. I mean, it's confidence you want, confidence restored. A new broom will sweep clean. Isn't that it? Isn't that the reality?
Can I ask you about Noel Rock? Because obviously there's the suggestion that he was texting about John Delaney about tickets, but there's also a suggestion which he denies that he would push back on Catherine Murphy's request to have the FAI before the committee. The tickets okay, the tickets is an issue, and I think it speaks to I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good that somebody's asking for World Cup final tickets, irrespective of whether or not they paid it.
Sure.
Whatever about the legalities.
If you hold a particular office, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
But I think
if I ask you for something and then you're going to be asking me questions in public about stuff,
no, absolutely.
I'm beholden to you, and it doesn't.
No, absolutely. I think if you have a register of TDs or other people, I don't mind that's online, who got tickets. I think that would be transparent.
Yeah.
I don't think getting a ticket means that you're bought by the organisation you got it from, but you don't want to be compromised. And I think that's the key. And you have to hold your independence. Particularly if you're a politician, you must be free to say what you believe, when you believe it, as you believe it, without fear or favour. And I think you do that by staying completely clear of all that stuff.
And you can let the public decide then if you think that the tickets
if they don't like you, they kick you out.
Exactly. But
which happens all the time.
The serious aspect about it was the kind of I'll push back on Catherine Murphy's request to have, like, if that happens.
I've seen that comment. I think that's a question for Noel Rock. I can't answer that question. He can, and the FAI can. He's given his answer. But I've
just seen in the papers that he says he can't remember that text.
Yeah, well, look, with respect, you have to ask him that. But today, everybody is in there, has the right to ask questions. It won't be speechification. It'll be what are the facts. And obviously, it's not going to be an easy meeting. And clearly, Noel can answer that question to you. And I mean,
well, we will ask him because it's only fair. And
it is absolutely.
And it'll be interesting to see if those says. But if somebody was saying that I would push back a request to have you before the committee on like that, definitely far more serious.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is that I think I said it last week. I said it at the meeting that Catherine Murphy is to be lauded for campaigning for this. Last December, she wrote to me asking that this would be the fact, and it is the fact. We had 3 meetings set up and it never happened. Now it's happening, and I think that I'm looking at what she's said and what she's done and what we've done as a committee, and I'm not aware that Noel said anything at any meeting. Again, they're in public. It should be on camera if he did. The meetings are on television, so.
Yeah, Catherine definitely deserves to be lauded. She's been
she does.
In some respects a lone voice for a while on this issue.
She has, absolutely.
What do you make of the suggestion to get the sponsors involved from Noel? That and money obviously talks. So if the sponsors were to pull the plug,
well, I think if there's ethics around sponsorship, particularly if you're a major company, you don't want to be associated with any organisation. So governance is governance. Governance is being proactive. Governance is making sure not that you just cross the T's and dotted the I's, but you're proactively saying, is there an issue here? How do I prevent that happening? How do I make things work? So it's all about good. It's common sense. Good governance is good management. It's common sense. It's change. It's accountability. It's being open. It's being frank.
You mentioned accountability, though. That's what annoys me about this. I'm surely if there were accountability, heads would have rolled at this stage. That's what annoys me, that nobody has left. I mean, you've a loan that happened in 2017 that's only been revealed now, and nobody thinks this is a sackable offence for anyone.
And the other point is that, as I understand it, the FAI rulebook says at the AGM you can't ask a question. You have to give prior notice. I mean, where's accountability there? Yeah,
well, let's see what their answers are today, and then at least that's on the record. And here's the thing, you guys get the opportunity to put them on the record about stuff in a way that, because the
journalists can't at the AGM.
The press
I think you guys can.
It tends to be stage managed, so access is limited, I think it's fair to say. It's an 8 hours today.
8 hours, yeah, and if we have to come back, we'll come back.
Right.
There'll be breaks every 2 hours. If a witness wishes a break at any time, we'll facilitate them. There'll be a lunch break as well, so it won't be all high-powered. You
can, of course, watch it online as well. And,
yes, it's online. It's on the Oireachtas TV.
I would suggest that people genuinely do watch it. It's going to be quite entertaining, actually, for an Oireachtas committee, I think, as well. But it's certainly going to be enlightening.
It'll be at 10 o'clock. We'll be going public.
Nice one. Fergus, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
We had Darrell Horgan on the show last night talking about not being picked by Alex Neil at Preston and what went on there. Have a look.
I think he saw me more as kind of an out of the touchline winger, one-on-one with defenders, getting at them crosses, things like that, where I think he wanted lads kind of playing at them inside forward roles nearly, and I think he thought he had players who were more suited to that, He played Shawnee out there quite a bit, and Callum Robinson, and there was just a few players who were ahead of me, and you know, he probably just, as he said, he just thought they were better players, and sometimes that's just the way it goes, you know, and not much you can do. You just get the head down, work away, but maybe sometimes he had his mind made up, and that was it, you know, and I've absolutely nothing against the guy. He's done a really, really good job there, so, you know, it was just time for me to go, and as I said, thankfully Hibs came in.
And how do you see yourself as a player? Because I suspect if Alex Neil saw your 2 goals at the weekend, then, you know, there's a touch of inside forward off them, I would have thought.
Yeah, look, maybe. It's hard to judge. I like to think I could do a bit, you know, and kind of adapt to any formation as much as I possibly can, really, you know. So I suppose the way the new manager has us playing here now, it's kind of either a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2, but he wants, you know, centre forwards in the box, like, and, you know, he wants his wingers in the box, and in and around the box be an opportunity either to score goals or, you know, create. And so that's the aim for me, and that's what I've been trying to do since he's come in.
Yeah, that's Darrell Horgan last night. You can catch that full thing on the podcast for the football show. Just head over to offtheball.com/podcasts, which is where we house everything that goes up on the show. Now, let's move on, because a big win for Spurs last night. I'm delighted to say Martin Lipton is on the line. Martin, you've literally written the book about White Hart Lane. How does the new lane compare with the old lane?
Well, apart from being twice the size, it's a great amphitheatre, I have to say. I went down at pitch level last night to look up, which was just really interesting to get a look at it. It was loud, there's no doubt about it. The atmosphere was great. There was a sense of occasion about the place, and it's after 2 weeks, it's the 2 matches, starts to feel a little bit like home.
I mean, I think it's an amazing start for them, because so many of these new stadia, the first few games, everybody's getting to grips with exactly the angles, all the kind of stuff that you're supposed to take a little bit of time to get used to, and there's no sense of home advantage. Spurs have just blitzed that in the first 2 games.
Well, I mean, they haven't played particularly well, but they've won the games. I mean, they were pretty edgy against Palace last week. At times last night, they threatened to be overrun by City. I thought City didn't play well, didn't play nearly as well as they can. But, yeah, if you win matches, it starts to build that sense of momentum. The gamble that they took was that Pochettino believed that the intensity of the supporters, their sheer desperation to get away from Wembley, would overcome the unfamiliarity and drive the team on. Thus far, that gamble appears to be paying off.
Yeah.
You mentioned the noise, Martin. I don't know if it were my sort of TV or whether it was from the way it carried on TV, but it did sound quite distinct, the actual kind of level of noise and the sound that it made in the stadium. And I presume this is something to do with the way it's designed.
Well, they've got in the chap who's the manager for U2 to design the acoustics in the ground. The idea being that the sound bounces back, basically. It felt like it was getting louder. I have to say, I did notice that, and there were at moments it was really, really loud during the game. Obviously, there's periods when they don't say a great deal. Normally, when City have the ball, but even then, at times they were screaming and shouting. I thought it was more intensive, the sound, than I expected. In truth,
the quality of the performance from Spurs. I mean, obviously they're up against one of the best teams in the world at the moment in Manchester City. So coming out with a victory, notwithstanding it requires a missed penalty in the middle of it, this is about as good as it's got from Spurs' perspective in European football. I mean, you're like talking about all the way back to the glory days, right?
Yeah, look, I remember watching them put 4 past final within 45 minutes. I saw them win the UEFA Cup against Anderlecht. So as a very young boy watching them play Leipzig and Cologne in the latter stages of the old UEFA Cup. And the older fans than me will talk about Gornik Zabrze and those games, Dukla Prague, etc., in the early 60s, and the team that got to the semi-final of the European Cup and then won the Cup Winners' Cup the next year. But this was the sort of night the stadium was built for, to play big European games under the lights. That's the ambition of the club going forward, and it felt like a momentous evening. It felt as if there was a sense of unity emerging from supporters and players and club alike. And
it's so weird because 8 weeks ago, when they were still at Wembley and before the Solskjaer decision had been made, you weren't quite sure what was going to happen, and still Pochettino hasn't fully officially committed to what's going to happen next year. But you imagine that stuff like last night, stuff like moving to the stadium properly, that just changes all of the momentum and mood music around the club.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said he was going to stay. I've never had any doubt in my mind that as long as Levy wanted him to stay, he would stay, and Levy wants him to stay. There will come a point, maybe in 18 months' time, when that changes, but not now. But I do think that he recognises this is a time for him to stand up and be counted as a manager, to make the changes he intends to make this summer. I think there'll be 6 or 7 in and out. I think we're a significant overhaul of the squad. But when you've got this sort of ground, this sort of club, it's about time you started to win.
That's the thing, though. How attractive is Spurs now? We'll say you're mentioning Pogba. If Pogba were to leave Manchester United are looking for replacements. If you have the option of going to Manchester United and potentially live around Manchester, you can now live around London and play in this stadium with a very, very promising manager in Pochettino, money coming in. How could Spurs become, a really, really big side now in terms of the narrative in the next 10 years or so?
Well, not unless they start paying $300,000 a week. I mean, the bottom line is how much you're paying, and Spurs have got historically a far lower wage bill. They only spend 39% of their revenue on wages in 2018, but that will go up. But they're always fighting to a degree with one hand tied behind their back. They don't have the cachet of United or Liverpool or the money of City. But the gap is closed between them and Arsenal financially. They're in a position where they do have something special and different to offer, and that might make a difference as long as the money they're offering is good enough.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that Son Heung-min got the goal, because his Asian kind of following is just so immense. Whenever you go over there, and I think for their brand, there's no harm him getting a goal like that last night.
Oh, look, he's incredibly popular with obviously Asian fans, but also with Tottenham fans. They love him to bits. He seems like a sort of genuine, down-to-earth lad that you'd love to take home to your mother, as it were. I mean, he has that certain decency about him. He comes across as a very humble boy who just loves playing football. And the supporters absolutely are captivated by him and what he brings to the party.
Obviously, Martin, it's half-time. We know we've seen so many of these European ties flip in the past, but it's just a bang of something about this City team that they haven't quite convinced us all that they're capable of coming through situations like the difficulty they face in this tie.
So I thought before the tie that City would go through. I think after the tie that City will go through. I think they're a better team. I think the Spurs have got a better chance now than I thought they had before the match, before last night. Historically, if you win 1-0 at home, you have a pretty decent chance of going through in the Champions League. It's not like the old days where you had to win 3 at home to have a chance. European football has changed. If Spurs score 1, then City have got to score 3. I think City will score 3. But it'll be a nervous game. It'll be edgy. Spurs know what they have to do. They can set up with a game plan to thwart and frustrate and look to nick one on the counter. It's a different scenario to having to make the game and having to go there and score 2 or 3. So the odds move back towards Tottenham, but City are a better team. They have been all season. They have been for the last 2 seasons. They've got far more. Any team that can bring on De Bruyne and Sane has got a lot of quality. Bernardo Silva should be available. I think Aguero will be better having played a bit of football. You've got to back City from here, but Spurs are in the game.
What was the reaction to the Kane tackle?
I think it was an instant feeling from where I was on the far side of the ground from where it happened that that's the end of the season. It looked that way straight away. You could tell by his reaction. As soon as he went over, I thought, oh dear, that's him gone. And I think the positive thing about Tottenham is that as a collective team, they didn't give up. They found hard to go again and to score the winning goal without him. But he's obviously a huge part of the team, and with him missing, they missed the main goal scoring threat.
Was it any more? Should it have been punished any more than it was at the time, do you think?
No, I don't think so. They both went for the ball. Kane's foot gets trapped underneath Delph's foot. It happens. I mean, sometimes
you're being kind there, Martin. I think.
No, I don't think. I mean, if anything, Kane was overly aggressive, you could argue, in going for the ball. He didn't need to do it there. Sometimes accidents happen. I'm not one of those who turns everything into a conspiracy.
No, but well, Kane is obviously a striker. He's making the challenge, but he kind of puts his foot in a very sort of, amenable position in terms of the tackle, where he's not going to injure the player. Whereas Delph puts his foot in a position where
but Delph's won the ball, hasn't he? Delph's won the ball, and it's his follow through that lands on him.
I'm not sure winning the ball is
50 yards. I mean, it's not as if he's just gone out to do Kane. Delph has won the ball. He's played the ball back to his goalkeeper, and I think sometimes it just happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I've heard both sides of the argument here. I wouldn't agree with you. I think Delph knew what he was doing, but we'll never know. But I don't think winning the ball exonerates him, to be honest. I think it was completely dangerous where he left his foot.
Well, it's all about opinion. I've seen worse tackles by Harry Kane.
Yeah, fair enough.
He's a forward though. He's not supposed to be able to tackle. What about the VAR decision? It caused uproar here in our studio last night. Do we complain about the process if it gets a wrong result, or do we just hope that the process eventually leads to more good results than bad results?
I was in Rome in January when Vizetti, the head of referees, explained how it was going to work. So as soon as the referee goes over to the monitor, I know he's going to give a penalty, even though I've not seen it. Under UEFA regulations, that's a penalty. I don't think it is. What's bizarre is if that was City v Spurs in the Premier League next season, it wouldn't be a penalty. Play on the Wednesday in the Champions League, and it is a penalty because there's different interpretations of what is and isn't handball.
Can you explain that, Martin?
Pardon?
Can you explain that interpretation?
Yeah, UEFA say that any handball where the ball strikes a hand outside the natural silhouette, basically, when your hands are slightly raised, it will be a penalty. Premier League say there has to be a definitive movement towards the ball. That's the difference, effectively. Unless your hand is above your shoulder, in which case both will give it as a penalty.
Yeah, that is the most stupid directive I think I've ever heard in terms of football, and it shows an absolute idiocy in terms of your comprehension of how you behave in a game. I mean, why would he deliberately try to handle the ball there, and what's he supposed to do with his hands? I mean,
but it was the same as the World Cup. The one thing we've always moaned about is consistency or lack thereof. The referees in UEFA are being consistent. Well, I don't like it, but at least they're consistent. It was in the World Cup as well. The penalty that was given against Croatia in the final, I don't think it's a penalty, but it's the one they gave all tournament, and it's the one that the play. And if Pochettino had bothered to turn up to the meeting in Switzerland when he was asked to by UEFA, he'd have known that. I mean, only 5 managers turned up. Bizarrely, one of those was Tuchel, who suffered for it himself when PSG played United.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting. Martin, good stuff this morning. Thanks a million for joining us.
No worries, take care. Bye-bye.
His thoughts.
I don't know what the studio's reaction to, or the office's reaction to it last night was, sure, but somebody made the point on Twitter.
Kenny was saying VAR is a disgrace.
Yeah, I wasn't really aware of the directive he's talking about there. I know the rule has been revised and that, it's not all about intent now. And I think that's fair enough. I mean, you can kind of have your hands out like that and have no intent of actually handling the ball.
Yeah, well, what are your hands doing out there?
If you close your eyes and have your hands out there, you I'm not trying to handle the ball here, but you have a responsibility to at least. But if you're like Danny Rose, he's kind of, I was said again last night, you shouldn't go to ground, but that's part of the game where you make
his choice to go to ground with it.
You make a despairing challenge, and I think he was slightly off balance. But at no point is he's actually trying to take his hands away from the ball. He's to me, he's doing his best. Why would he try to handle the ball there? And I know he blocks the ball with his hand, but it's completely incidental to the movement. Things are happening in a split second, and you cannot give handballs for that. And as the point has been made, teams will now probably try to get to get accidental handballs from the opposition, because it won't be that hard to do it. Hit it off a lad's hand from close range. Well, his hand is slightly off, penalty. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. The handball situation is becoming a serious issue.
Here's what Kenny had to say about VAR last night. He thinks it's going to become a juggernaut that ruins the game. Have a look.
So these things are subjective, aren't they? I mean, rules that people think there's rules there that's black and white, it's right or wrong, but it's how you interpret the rules. Each referee, certainly referees in different countries, and even referees in the same country, Premier League, will interpret those rules slightly differently from others. So those grey areas are always going to be there going forward.
Yeah, it does allow the referee to make a more informed decision, though. Now, he might still get that decision wrong, but at least he's going to look at the incident properly.
But at what cost? Like I said, that game was dead, Joe, for a minute. I don't know how long it took, but it was dead. So in terms of the spectacle as well, for me, was what's driving this for me, in terms of the spectacle, the game, what we like, that energy inside the stadium, the natural flow of the game, that high energy type of Premiership game, which we all love, the best game in the world, boom, boom, boom. And this is the buffer. This is rubbing up against it. This is preventing it, and it's going to do more of it going forward. Because I don't know how you can. This is a juggernaut. This VAR. I don't see how you can stop it going into all areas of the game. The things that I've spoken about this evening. There's going to be more and more of these things coming up. Penalty kicks, potential sending off, second yellow cards that could be red cards. Not free kicks, not given on the edge of the box when a team counter-attacked and scored the other end, getting pulled back. Well, if you hadn't given the free, there wouldn't have been a count. It's crazy stuff. It really is.
I understand what you're saying. Are you really that bothered by a 90-second delay, though?
Yeah. When there was 5 of them during the course of the game, yeah, I am.
I'm not bored during them.
And particularly when we've arrived at a situation when the split is 50-50.
No,
I
accept that
decision. I understand there will be decisions that we'll get right, but there's others we won't, and we'll still be arguing about. And the natural consequences that the rhythm of the game is going to be disrupted time and time again.
What do you think?
I have an image perhaps of a future where a team has like one or two options in a game to look for VAR. A challenge, yeah, which obviously we've seen in other sports. And that brings another element to proceedings where, the guy maybe on the pitch can say to his coach, I think you want to call that because I think he was way over the ball there. And let's be honest, the Delph tackle, if you watch that tackle on TV, there doesn't look to be much to it. You look at it in slow motion, it looks as extremely different tackle. Whether that's for VAR is another thing. But a challenge might be the worst thing in the world. I'm quite favourable on VAR because I think it's very, very hard to make decisions. Like, for example, the Spurs goal last night, which could be one of the biggest goals in their history, really, could easily be ruled offside. Son Heung-min, it's very marginal. The ball then could have been ruled over the line, which it wasn't. So things like that, with the help of the video, I think it solves more problems than it doesn't. Kenny's point is fair enough, but I mean, it's not like games are ruined by 20 VARs. I mean,
his point is that they will be. So
yeah, that's the issue.
There'll be a VAR for the offsides that wasn't in the Sun goal. There'll be another one for whether or not it goes over the line, and then there'll be another one to see if there was any shithousing going on in the 6-yard box. And it's like 5 minutes have gone. What? Why are we doing this again? Was there a goal or not?
Yeah, that is a concern, and it also, being quite cynical here, it opens up the possibility of sponsorship in these breaks, which football might say, "Oh, this is great." Where we get to remember was it World Cup '94 where they had to manage their ads because the Americans were like, "Well, we want ads all the time. Like, we can't really do that, but we'll put them at the corner of the screen."
There were ads in there. I've been to Italy for games. I don't know if they still do it or not, but the Juve. Milan Champions League final, there were ads in the corner kicks during the corners. The ball would go out and there'd be like a wipe. And
I wasn't aware of that.
Come on.
Like, let's be honest, the guys actually going to the games, they're not what matters anymore. It's people who are watching on TV.
And look, maybe if you're getting the football for free and there's an ad, you don't have to pay your 40 quid to Sky. Are you happy with that?
Well, yeah, but I think VAR could help in that regard.
Just quickly, the Salah, just going to show you this picture here. So there's the Salah tackle.
Yeah, like I've never seen Salah tackle like that before, and I'd give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt in that regard, but it's a red card, and there's no words. Graham Souness said it was a red card, and it's always funny listening to Suey on about these terrible tackles, and then you just look up YouTube at some of his challenges. But that was a different era, and that's a red card all day long from Salah. It's there wasn't an awful lot, like, if you watch the tackle, he didn't really go in with a lot of force, but his foot is that high that, and he didn't really.
You can't. There's no defending it.
No. There's some defence because I think he kind of went for the ball, but I also think he just left his foot in a kind of a cowardly way, and it's a red card without doubt.
All right, let's move on because for Manchester United fans, it's Christmas morning. They're playing Barcelona in the Champions League tonight, and I'm delighted to say we've got Andy Mitten with us. Andy, how you doing? How are you feeling this morning?
Tired, excited, just about to enter Barcelona airport and fly to Manchester for the game. So I'm expecting the flight to be busy with Barca fans. I'm sick of seeing Manchester United and Barcelona play pre-season. I'm really glad to watch them in a proper game of football. And I wouldn't say I'm too optimistic. I'm probably as optimistic as I was going to Turin in November or Paris in March. And I watch Barca a lot. I've probably watched them 25 times a season. I know they're brilliant. I know their strengths, their weaknesses. I know that Messi is in incredible form. And unfortunately, so is Luis Suarez as well. But by the time that game kicks off tonight, Old Trafford will be rocking. There'll be a huge amount of anticipation. And I just hope United turn up. I thought the first half against PSG was very good. United held their own before being outclassed in the second. But if you go back to Sevilla a year ago, United were just, they never started. And this hush descended on Old Trafford where the fans were thinking, we didn't realise that Sevilla are actually that good. Juventus were also the better team at Old Trafford in October, and probably Valencia as well in that 0-0 draw. So this tie, it's a present. You said Christmas morning. It's a gift which nobody expected because that result against PSG away was such a surprise. But Manchester United against Barcelona in the Champions League quarter-final, I'm glad that's happening tonight than not happening.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got the cover story in 442 at the moment. It's a behind-the-scenes look at what's going on at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Manchester United. Some of the interesting tidbits from that is the relationship between, obviously we know there's a great relationship between Ferguson and Solskjaer, but Solskjaer's leaning into that relationship as opposed to in any way kind of trying to be his own man and cutting Ferguson out. It's like fully aware that this is a resource to use as opposed to something to be scared of.
Yeah, and he speaks to him on a regular basis, but I heard some people say before I wrote the piece that Solskjaer was Ferguson's puppet. It's simply not true. He is his own man. And while Solskjaer deflects attention and says, we're part of a group, it's all the coaches together, the club are also adamant that actually you're the manager, you're the man who takes responsibility here. But if you're Solskjaer, why not use Ferguson? You've got this brilliant mind living 5 miles away, and someone who knows the club, knows the players. It'd be a shame not to use it. Louis van Gaal, he felt that he didn't want the ghost of Ferguson hanging over him all the time. Jose Mourinho invited him back to the training ground, but Fergie didn't really take him up on that. You know, Mourinho was respectful, he was reverential towards Fergie, but Fergie kept his distance. But now he feels if he wants to take people down to the training ground, then he can do. And I think it should be like that for someone like Sir Alex Ferguson. And Solskjaer needs all the help he can get because he's got a very, very tough job. We've seen with United losing 3 of the last 4 games. They're not all there. They're not at the level of Manchester City or Liverpool. They pulled out these great surprise moments, and not just in Europe, but in the Cup, beating Arsenal and Chelsea away. But there's a lot of room for improvement in this team. And United have played Wolverhampton Wanderers 3 times this season and been outclassed in each of those games. They weren't one-off matches. They showed that Manchester United need work.
Yeah. Events like tonight kind of help speed up that process of giving Solskjaer the self-confidence to make the changes that he feels he needs to make. Is that kind of... It's a double-edged sword, obviously, because with every second that you progress in the tournament, the expectations go up and up and up, and it means that the base underneath it needs to be fixed as quickly as you possibly can. So there's less time for the team to be in transition, I think, is the point I'm trying to make there.
Yeah, but it's still in transition because United have recruited such patchy success in the post-Ferguson years. Not that every Ferguson signing was a success either, but the competition's tougher. When United were so dominant in the 90s, it was only really Arsenal. United could go to Tottenham and buy their best players. They could buy Berbatov, they could get Carrick in, and that's not going to happen now because all the Premier League teams are far wealthier. Bournemouth can outbid AC Milan for a player, and City have obviously very well resourced. So are Chelsea under Abramovich. Liverpool are recruiting really smartly as well. Liverpool have really got their act together. They've expanded the stadium. The recruitment's better. I did a big piece on Liverpool at the start of the year, and I got lots of inside information there. And when they went for Van Dijk, they were derided for paying so much. Actually, Liverpool were prepared to pay more for him, and that's been vindicated because he's brilliant. You look at United's recruitment, it's been a real mixed bag. So the club are looking at appointing a sporting director. Commercially, they're still doing very well, but there's lots of side issues. Old Trafford's starting to fray a little bit. It's still a great stadium. It's still a very good stadium, but it's not the best stadium as it long was. And when you compare United to Barca and Madrid, they're probably the 3 biggest clubs in the world. United are a long way behind, maybe not Madrid this season, but Madrid have won 4 out of the last 5 European Cups, and Barca have just got better players. And yet I'm saying all this, I don't think United will go through. I didn't think they'd go through against Paris either. But I love Solskjaer's confidence. I love the fact that after they'd been outclassed at home to PSG, he said mountains are there to be climbed. Whereas when I asked Mourinho in Sevilla a year ago about reaching the quarter-final stage, he almost said, we're not going to get there, we're not good enough. So he talked himself out of the game before it had even started. Solskjaer is cut from a different cloth. The players are urging support, and all that will help. But the second leg being at Camp Nou, that is a killer, because I see how good Barca are at home. They soak up the first 10 minutes, and then they just work through the gears, and by the 25th minute, they're absolutely brilliant. But then again, so were PSG, and look what happened there. This is why we love football. You never fully know, and United have got a lot of very, very good players. It's not a vintage team, but individually, look at the names. Pogba, De Gea, Rashford. These are top-class players. I did 2 hours of Catalan radio last night, and they were raving about Marcus Rashford more than anyone I've heard in Manchester. So sometimes the grass is always greener. Although Messi, whichever way you look at him, he's the best player in the world.
Yeah, it's when you finish the sentence like that, it's hard to counteract it. Just to talk briefly about the director of football gig, is anybody from the class of '92 being lined up for that? Is Gary Neville a potential recruitment, a recruitee there?
No, is a very simple answer. I think Gary would be excellent at doing that job, but he's not going to do that job, which is a shame. I think the more of those lads could be involved, the better. But that's it's just how it is. I think they're going to look internally. Or I think they're not going to look at Paul Mitchell. I think they felt that he was someone who put himself in the frame for the job. There are a couple of internal candidates, but also they're looking externally. But the longer it goes on, the more there are doubts among the fans. But I'm assured that it is going to happen, and it's going to be someone who works alongside Ole Gunnar and Ed Woodward. It's not a buffer between the two. And I think just in terms of the sheer administrative load, it is something which is needed, because United is now a club of 700 people. The staff is absolutely massive, and it's great to see Solskjaer in camp now on Saturday night watching the game, but he needs help. If there's a brilliant fullback in Palermo or in Nantes, United, a sporting director needs to be so plugged in that he not only knows who the player is, he knows who the agent is, he knows that Manchester City are looking at him, and so are Juventus, and United have been lacking that sharpness in recent years, and that showed in the recruitment.
How important is top 4 for them?
Exceptionally so. It's a club structured towards top 4 European Champions League football. The wages, the way that the sponsorship deals are done, the whole structure of the club is about playing Champions League football. And when they're not in there, suddenly when United are trying to sell sponsorship packages by saying we're the greatest, biggest club in the world, people are saying, well, you finished 6th in the league and you're playing in the Europa League. You get away with that maybe once or twice, but they've got to be in there. And the players' wages drop massively if they are not in the Champions League. It's going to be difficult, but then in December it's going to be exceptionally difficult. So just for Ole Gunnar to get the team back into the frame of the Champions League is to his credit. Of course, he could win the European Cup this year in Madrid, but one of my mates, a Manchester City fan, he's already booked his hotel in Madrid, and against such confidence, it's going to be impossible for Manchester United.
Very good. I think it's okay for the neutrals to be booking their hotels in Madrid. Who's going to look after Messi tonight? Whose job is that?
I wrote a piece yesterday where everyone looked after him in 2008, and I spoke to loads of the people who were involved in that game, and Carlos Queiroz probably came out of it best, because his attention to detail, his absolute obsession with beating Barcelona extended to putting placemats on the floor of the position of every Barcelona player. And Queiroz was a very smart... with Messi, I think if you're hard and clean on him, you've got half a chance, but he can just accelerate, he can just produce the magic. I was in Camp Nou on Saturday, and he did to two of the best defenders in the world, Jimenez and Godin at Atletico. He just left them confused by the end of the match. He finally got his break, he wore them down. He'd done it against Villarreal a couple of days previous. Chris Smalling says, bring it on. I love that attitude. And Chris Smalling's had some very good games. He was man of the match against Chelsea away in the FA Cup, but he's not quite at the level of Messi. And I just wish them well, because I'm looking forward to it, but it really is daunting, because Barca were pretty poor away from home last year in Europe. They weren't scoring goals. They've not gone beyond the last 8 since 2015 when they won it. The players started to look exhausted and fatigued in April. But Messi has played 1,000 minutes less than this time last season. Suarez has come into form. The stars are really aligning for Barcelona, and I'm going to stop building them up right this second and get on a plane and go and watch Manchester United hopefully turn up.
Enjoy it, Andy. Thanks a million for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Andy Mitten of United We Stand there, and you can read his cover story in 442 as well. Now, a reminder, we've teamed up with Lay Healthcare, the official health and wellbeing partner to Leinster Rugby, to launch Wellbeing Wednesday for the next 9 weeks. One lucky winner every week is going to win a Blue Book voucher for €250 for their very own wellbeing retreat. All 9 winners then go into a draw. One lucky winner will receive a wellbeing hamper and a Leinster season ticket for the 2019-2020 season. To enter, just answer this question. Tell us how many points Gordon Darcy scored during his Leinster career. Send us your answer on any of our OTB social channels. Make sure you use the hashtag It's Good to Live. We're looking for Darcy's total number of points scored for Leinster. Now, Tom is here with the sports news this morning. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm trying to think. That's a tricky enough question, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to look it up.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's one to be Googled. Yeah, it's never going to be a quick fire question, is it? Just looking forward to the Champions League. Well, looking back, rather, Champions League action first. Advantage Spurs after that all Premier League Champions League quarter-final first leg last night. Mauricio Pochettino's men got the better of Manchester City by 1-0. Plenty of drama and controversy, a saved penalty, and obviously delay to seeing if Heung-min Son's goal was going to be ruled out by VAR. First of 3 games between the two sides in a fortnight. Next two both at the Etihad, with bad news, of course, for Spurs fans, with Harry Kane limping off with that ankle, or been stretched off rather, with that ankle injury, and his manager fears he's gone for the season.
If you see the action, it's an action that maybe is when he twists his ankle can maybe damage the ligament. Again, it's so painful, doesn't look good.
Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp was delighted with his side's performance in their first leg of the Champions League quarter-final last night. Keita and Firmino with the goals in that 2-0 win over Porto, and he says there's no doubt who the better team were.
It was a good game, it was a controlled game, in a lot of moments we deserved the win 100%. We scored 2 wonderful goals, were in a lot of situations really dangerous, I would say. So overall, a really good performance.
Of course, you heard all about Manchester United and their clash against Barcelona upcoming. But the other match in the Champions League tonight, of course, having shocked holders Real Madrid in the last round. Ajax take on Juve. At the main line there, that Max Allegri says that Cristiano Ronaldo will be back for the Italian champions. Both those games getting underway at 8 o'clock. In the Sky Bet Championship, Leeds have moved into second place there after their 2-0 win at Preston last night. Leaders Norwich tonight take on Reading, while Sheffield United can go back over Leeds again if they can win at Birmingham, something they haven't done since 1999. And Aston Villa, they look to put some daylight between themselves and Middlesbrough in 7th and really consolidate a playoff spot. They are away to Rotherham. Some bad news for Connacht fans. Arlen Lough Rue is a major date for their crucial Pro 14 clash with Cardiff on Saturday. He's picked up a virus, so head coach Andy Friend says it's very unlikely he'll recover in time. Centres Bundy Aki and Tom Farrell both expected to return to that starting 15 as Connacht seek a win that would secure their place in next year's Heineken Cup. There's 2 games this evening in Gaelic games in the Munster Minor Football Championship. Neighbours Limerick and Clare clash in Newcastle West, while Tipperary take on Waterford at Sean Tracy Park. Both those games throwing in at 6:45. Quick Line and Racing, Tiger Roll's performance was speculated on it during the week. He's been given an official mark of 172, so that's the best performance in a Grand National in 46 years. I think Chris was the last, and he was actually beaten. So just for, that's up £13. So I think it's something like it's an enormous swing with Annabelle Fly. I think it's around about at 17.
Can I go Gold Cup with him, don't you, next season? I mean, why not? He produced that performance at Navan over hurls when Gordon said he wasn't fully fit. Kind of got away with it, really. He was kind of saying, like, basically, I produced a horse not fully fit for a race, which is actually against the rules. But, in any event, if he were as unfit as Gordon said that day, he won a Grade 2 hurdle over 2.5 miles by 8 lengths. Yeah. He's produced some performances this season that are of a totally different level. And I mean, I'd have no interest in the cross country if he could win the Gold Cup, and he actually could win the Gold Cup. Stranger things have happened.
Like on that mark, you're in
that puts him into the territory easily.
That's Denman winning a Hennessy mark. So it's pretty impressive. And in golf, what's the best way to prep for a golf tournament?
Hang on, sorry.
Yeah.
So how would you prep him? How would you find that out if you think this? So do you run him in Leopardstown at Christmas in one of the big chases?
Yeah.
So that's your he can cut it or he can't?
That's interesting because he does handle Cheltenham very well. He seems to be a spring horse. We don't see that much from earlier in the year.
So you can't tell?
Yeah, I don't.
Sure, it's a big ask. Where would you, Leopardstown Christmas maybe?
Yeah, you could obviously run him in the King George.
Down Royal?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think I'm speculating on something that's not going to happen here. I think they're looking at him as a Grand National horse, but he can run in the Grand National and the Gold Cup. I would just prep him for the Grand National by running the Gold Cup like Annabelle Fly this year and forget about the cross country because it's...
In case he might win it.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he wins the Gold Cup, it's not a bad bonus, is it?
Yeah, well, if you're putting him in the Gold Cup, you have to train him for it though, right?
The only difference is
the
Gold Cup. Yeah, the only difference is the Gold Cup could empty him, whereas he just dots around the cross country, and it's an ideal sort of prep run looking at the.
I mean, if he wins a Gold Cup,
if he
wins a Gold Cup, the Gold Cup is still the biggest race of them all.
Yeah,
all right.
It is.
Tom, last one from you.
How do you prep for a golf tournament? Well, according to Roy McIlroy, it's meditation and juggling.
Meditated for 20 minutes the morning that I went out on the Sunday morning of the Players. You know, my routine now consists of meditation, juggling, mind training, doing all the stuff to get yourself in the right place. It was actually cool. I was watching the women's amateur here over the weekend, and I saw a few girls on the range juggling to warm up. So it's catching on.
Yeah, obviously John's going to be here to discuss it in more detail, but does this mean at golf clubs around the country you're going to see your dad out juggling and sitting there practicing mindfulness before his monthly medal or whatever?
Possibly, yeah. He sounds more like Graham McDowell every day, doesn't he? I genuinely can't tell them apart. Across American Northern Irish accent.
No, they're not.
McElroy. It's hard to know.
McDowell is totally American.
There's a video on PGA Tour of McDowell from last year, from a couple of years, definitely
McElroy's getting there.
Jonathan Higgins was at Anfield for us last night. Here's his report. Have a look.
It's Jonathan Higgins here for OTB AM at Anfield. Liverpool have beaten Porto 2-0 in the first leg of the Champions League quarter-final. We're going to find out what the fans thought of all that.
He brought fierce life to the midfield, especially go forward ball, okay. He got a goal, but he was actually involved in 4 or 5 more attacking plays where we could have scored as well. So, very good night from him, and it's very positive going forward that we now have a creative fella in midfield.
Having a run of games has obviously really affected his confidence, and he had a cracking game tonight. Really, really good.
I feel like it's the same as Hawks, where last year just needed that goal to kick him off. Got the goal again tonight. Looks a completely different player.
You look at him and you think to yourself, this guy's got something. And when he's got the ball at his feet and he's driving forwards and he's slaloming through players, he's a bit of a difference maker. He can create that little bit of space, can't he, that just draws defenders in. And then if he can get a little pass on, he's going to score a lot of goals for Liverpool.
I was very happy with the midfield and the three. I think Keaton needs to stay in that midfield, same with Fabinho. I don't know whether he tosses it up between Henderson or Milner, but I think that three was perfect tonight.
Especially in the first half, I thought Henderson played in a more forward role on the right hand side with Fabinho holding, and Henderson actually played through. He played through the ball for the first goal, and as well as that, he created 2 or 3 other chances. So he was excellent. Fabinho did his role.
I think Fabinho sitting in the base of that midfield is absolutely superb. The man for me that stood above all the others today, though, is the captain, Jordan Henderson. He's coming for so much criticism over the years now, Jordan, that you forget that he's been playing that number 6 role for Jurgen Klopp because he's a team player. Now we've got someone, I believe, in Fabinho who can play that role better than him. But I think as a fan base, we have forgotten what Jordan Henderson was before Jurgen Klopp moved him back there. And Jordan Henderson is a guy who can play that box-to-box role. From the minute go tonight, he was running beyond Mo Salah, stretching the defence, getting in behind.
I mean, like most fans here tonight, I would have liked a third to probably kill the tie completely. But, I think we've got a definite goal in us, more than possibly 2, because they've got to come and play at us now.
I really can't see that Porto team scoring twice against us. I just don't think they're good enough.
I think we need to settle ourselves. 2 goals in a quarter-final is very good. When's the last time we could say win 2-0 at home and we're a bit disappointed after? It's a bit ludicrous. I'm very happy with a 2-0 win in the quarter-final.
Yeah, look, I'm coming from Waterford in Ireland. I've been coming here now since I was 6. I have an uncle living in Liverpool, so I've come since I was 6, and that's 44 years ago. And tonight's game was my 630th home game at Anfield now, you know, so it's been fairly decent, you know, in that time. I've seen some good some ups, some downs, but look, you know, it's passion, it's in my heart, and it'll never go away, you know. I just love it here. It's like a second city, you know, to me, so I just love coming here. Love the people, love the club, and, you know, till I die, that's the way it's going to be.
So there we are. The fans are happy after a dominant Liverpool display. I'm Jonathan Higgins for OTB AM.
Good man, Jonathan. 630 home Liverpool games that guy been to.
It's absolutely mad. Like, what he talked to 7 or 8 people there. One of them had a Scouse accent, and Liverpool games are like that. I don't know how Liverpool fans feel about that, because Liverpool is a very Irish city in many ways, and there's so many Irish people at the games. But I know from speaking to people over there, if you're actually living in Liverpool, it's not very easy to get a ticket to watch Liverpool anymore. It's become a very global club, as the Premier League is. On the reflection of the amount of Irish people who go to watch games in England, I think in terms of the League of Ireland, it'd be great if they watch games here.
You can do both though, can't you?
You can, but it would also be, there are so many fans who could be watching games here, and in terms of global warming as well, it'd be better off not taking flights every week, genuinely. You know, go down to your League of Ireland ground, where hopefully our floodlights are powered by eco energy.
I think that there's a lot of clubs. I've got to be careful what I say here in front of my Spurs supporting buddy, but there's a lot of clubs for whom that isn't that link. That Liverpool legitimately elected Home Rule MP in the 1910s, like an Irish Home Rule MP, when they couldn't get elected in Ireland at that stage, some of them. So it's like there's a proper...
Liverpool, it's a really Irish city, like, yeah, it has to be said. You feel that profoundly.
I'm sure some of them are getting the boat, Johnny. There's nothing wrong with the boat, is there?
Oh, there's a lot wrong with the boat, yeah. It's an ordeal, but...
Insect contributes to global warming, does it?
No, from your carbon footprint is not as bad.
No, it's grand, but it would be better if we
do
keep
both?
These guys. Oh no, of course. I mean, I've been to 2 Liverpool games this season myself, but I just think there's
as I say, not as I do. No, Rock.
I'm losing this argument, but yeah, I don't know. It is, but the ticket prices. I mean, there's a little bit in the race post there with some of the Man United ticket price tonight because of the Barcelona.
I meant to bring that up with Andy. Yeah.
Yeah, I meant to bring it up, and then you asked a question, which was basically, what are we going to do with Messi tonight? And I was like, well, that's a more important question.
You could have got there at the end.
Ticket prices are going to become a big deal in English games, I think, in the near future, because there are a lot of disenfranchised people out there.
There already are in the south. There's an issue in the south. I think in the north of England, Manchester United and Liverpool is still okay, but like Tottenham, you know, the ticket prices are just...
Haven't they introduced the cap? They've maintained the cap. A load of clubs voted against it for away fans, so it's still 30 quid to go to an away game.
Just if you're trying to go to a home game in London, it's just, you're talking nearly around £100, you know.
The last time I was in London, not that long ago, 5 or 6 months ago, you could buy tickets for Spurs at Wembley that night, and it was a big game. I can't remember who it was, but I remember, like, you know, in town, outside Piccadilly, there was like one of those ticket sellers, and it was like tickets for Wembley tonight for Spurs. I was like, I was amazed. I was assuming. I didn't check, but
it's just because of the capacity of Wembley, and also the fans didn't really take to it. I went there to see them play Cardiff in October, and it was dead. Atmosphere was half full.
Yeah.
Even the Palace game only had 59,000 at it, so 62,000 and 62 is the capacity.
Hang on.
So
What?
yeah, only at 59,000
for the first game ever.
Yeah.
They couldn't sell it out.
Well, I don't know whether it was restrictions or not, but that was the attendance log, 59,000.
Okay. People don't comment on this that much. In general, the atmosphere at Premier League games is absolutely rubbish. Like,
I think it depends where it is.
Yeah, but in general, it's rubbish because there are a lot of day trippers.
You go to any Anfield match?
No, absolutely. I've been totally underwhelmed by Anfield.
Really?
The Napoli game in the Champions League.
Anfield is a cathedral, John.
It's totally underwhelmed. Go to watch a game in Turkey. Go to watch a game in Italy. Go to watch a game in Spain.
But if you're going to go to a game,
it was a decade. It's like nearly 20 years ago in the old San Siro when Paul Ince was playing, so that'll tell you how long ago it was.
I've never been underwhelmed by an atmosphere in Italy, but with people sitting at matches, that kills atmosphere.
Not great.
No, it totally, because rather than become part of it, you basically become like, and rather than being a participant, you're a spectator, I think, when you're sitting down. As well as that, just so many day trippers, and also just, the fact that it's Premier League. The atmosphere of the Premier League is crap, and I mean that.
What was what Anfield? Because I was at the Bournemouth game when Liverpool won 3-0 and the atmosphere was great.
I was at the Burnley game, they won 4-2. Now, that was an early kick-off, which doesn't help, but it was very, very run-of-the-mill. People expecting them to win, obviously, but just a load of people there who were day trippers.
Like you.
Yeah, absolutely. Who had to pay...
Does the Beatles now have a song called Day Tripper?
I think it was the Beatles, but no, I mean, the atmosphere is not great at all. And watch the old games, so everyone was standing up. Look at the Kop in the old days.
Look,
they were different.
Standing is amazing.
Yeah.
And English football made that move
totally wrong. Like, so wrong. I know,
but it was
safe standing is the way to go.
Yeah,
but I think there was legitimate reasons for it, at the time.
Sorry, I'm not talking about the Taylor report. Post-Taylor report, in the last decade, there has been a move. Villa were one of the clubs behind it, which is why I knew a little bit about it at the time, for safe standing, where, like, they have at Dortmund. They obviously can't use it for international games, but, like, Dortmund, it's safe. You put crush barriers, you limit the amount of people, you give people a certain area that they can go and stand in. It's not completely free. It's like... crowd management is something that has improved since...
Well, watch the Man United game tonight. The amount of people who are standing, who just refuse to sit down because they're old Man United fans and they want to stand at games. I always want to stand at a game as well, and the difference in the atmosphere is exponential.
People do stand. I've stood at the South Stand of Tottenham many times over the last 15 years, and it's 17,500 now, really good steep tier, and they'll all stand. I
think it's fair enough.
They all stand at the Kop, don't they?
And they should. Like, they should just legislate for that and say, this is what we do.
Rather than it being,
here's the kids' family seated area, reduce prices, here's your standing area, and we can actually get a few more people in. The atmosphere will be way better.
Hillsborough, Hillsborough didn't happen because people were standing. Hillsborough happened because there were far too many people loaded into an area, and unfortunately...
And also negligence.
Negligence, but, standings can be perfectly safe, and it's a lot safer people standing in safe standing areas than standing in seated areas, which they're currently doing.
Yeah, and people get pissed off. John, you're here to talk golf. Rory McIlroy's meditation and juggling.
Yeah, I watched the presser, lads, and I thought it was good. I think he's in a good place. I'd back Rory after watching the presser.
Would you try meditation? Would you back meditation?
I would back meditation, actually, yeah. It's something I need to probably integrate into my life. I've tried it at times. I have the Calm app. So whether it's going to help my betting or not, I don't know. But no, he's very happy with his body, his mind. He was just relaxed in the presser.
Somebody asked him, did he get into it? Is it Buddhism? Is it what?
No, he said he's not going to be going to Nepal.
I mean, if I was as rich as him, I would definitely be going to Nepal.
So would I.
No,
come on.
He's not going to disappear and find himself. I just think it's more
for a few weeks.
It's more an adjustment. He's got Brad Faxon, who won 8 times on the US Tour, is kind of a putting guru for him, which he needed, to be honest, after splitting from Dave Stockton. And Brad has kind of introduced him to a few people, and I just think he just changed his lifestyle a bit. I think he's getting healthier. I don't know if he's as much of a gym rat, but he looks lean, and I think he's playing well. And I was even going through his record this year: tied 4th, tied 5th, tied 4th, 2nd, tied 6th, won the Players, tied 9th. That's pretty impressive. I think he's the hottest golfer on the planet right now. And even though there might be a squiggle or a question about his fortitude on a Sunday at Augusta, given it's the only major he hasn't won. We saw it last year with that missed putt on 2. We saw it in 2011 when he blew the 4-shot lead. I think he's going to win one of these. He's been in the top 10 the last 5 years. And I just think his game is suited to the course. The way he hits the ball so high, the draw of the ball, he hits it long. He's a great driver of the ball. His irons are good. And if the putter behaves and cooperates, and it was interesting, he was asked, have your failures at Augusta been down to your swing malfunctioning or your mindset not being right? And he said, in some instances, it's because my mindset's not being right. And I do think he seems to have found, well, I don't know whether temporarily or not, a kind of a peace. And I think that he's happy with the team around him. He's happy with his caddy. He's happy that he's a married man now. And he said that this is something he wants to integrate to his life for the next 20 years, not just the next 2 months to win the Masters and become only the 6th golfer to complete that Grand Slam.
Yeah, there's been this perpetual rush that we've had to make him be compared with all the greats that came before him. So this is the last one that he can do the career slam before he's 30. Before this, it was like, somebody else got to beat him to it. Nicholas beat him to it, and Tiger beat him to it because they were younger when it happened. And it's like he needs to stop having this sense of it's now or never, because hey, he's a golfer, he could actually win this when he's 50. Like, he just could still play 4 good rounds of golf out of nowhere when he's 50 and win the Masters, because it's golf. He could do it. And he needs to, like, stop putting the insane short-term pressure on himself and lean into middle age.
Hence the meditation.
Hence the change in mindset, I think, over the last... he wasn't winning enough. He hasn't won a major since 14. I think what you say there, Ger, is right, because Phil Mickelson's 48 and is definitely capable of winning the Masters. Nicholas is the oldest at 46, but with changing technology and healthier lifestyles and healthier golfers, you are going to see prolonged careers now. And it's more of a media construction, I suppose, because what did Tiger Woods do? He brought a huge amount of money into sport, into golf and into sport. Huge amount of commercial money. And everybody then is addicted to, oh, who's the next Tiger? Tiger's out of the loop here now for personal reasons or for injury reasons. Well, it's got to be Rory. We've got to crown him. You got to win 10 before you're 30, Rory. If you don't, you failed. Well, actually, it doesn't actually work that way. Seve Ballesteros only won 5 majors, one of the greatest golfers in the history of the game. Phil is probably the second best golfer of this generation, has only won 5 majors. So not everybody's going to be Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus. They were legends of the sport. Rory is I think still the best, most talented player in the game right now, because Tiger's not the player he was, and it's just going to be a great 4 days.
There's a few names that I wanted to talk to you about before we get to Tiger Woods. So Matt Kuchar, it seems to me, is the natural successor to Patrick Reed.
Oh, Matt was so nice. We always thought he was so nice.
He's 40-1.
Matt Kuchar has the game to win at Augusta. I'm not so sure if he's got the bottle to win. I watched him at the Open in the last time I was at the Open at Birkdale, and he was down the stretch with Spieth on the Sunday, and to me he did not have the X factor to win a major championship. To me, Matt Kuchar, when I hear Matt Kuchar, just whatever about the caddy or whatever about Sergio Garcia and the kind of the tarnishing of his beautifully coiffured image, what I hear about when I hear Matt Kuchar's name is comfortable. I don't hear winner. I don't hear winner.
No, I think you're dead right. But I hear somebody who's like an each-way shot at 40-1.
An each-way shot, especially like there's some bookmakers are offering 10 places. 10 places for the Masters.
What's the 10 places? What's the
50 odds?
That's mad.
Now, of course, the odds are short. Like this is the chance you take.
Trade-off is
the trade-off is you get shorter odds. So Matsuyama 25 for 10 places with one bookmaker. With another bookmaker might be 33 or 35 to be in the top 6.
So what do you get McIlroy in the 10 places?
13-2, which is not bad given like in the last 5 years he's been in the top 10.
13-8 top 13-10 rather top 10.
Yeah, so evens, a bit better than evens.
That's definitely big. I would have thought, despite my lack of knowledge of golf, I would have thought that was big.
Who else do you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, there was one other one there who's... let me just... you talk amongst yourselves.
Who's second favourite, actually?
Oh, Bubba Watson. I mean, what's the story?
Bubba can.
Bubba could miss the cut, right?
Bubba can, but...
Bubba's 33s.
Bubba can, he has the game. It doesn't really matter what form he's in because he has the talent. He's just so talented.
Let me ask a stupid gambling question. If the bookmakers are offering 10 places, I pick 10 golfers and stick a $5 on each of them, I'm going to win.
No, there are 200 golfers in the tournament.
Yeah, I know, but like I'm picking like I'm not all the 200-1 shots. I'm like Rory, Spieth, Tommy Fleetwood, Jason Day, Phil Mickelson.
I think this is like a 16-runner handicap in racing. They are over broke on the place market, but they're compensating on the win.
Yeah, but you're hoping that you probably need 5 or 6 of them to get in there. What happens if it's only 2?
Well, if some of them, so Sergio's 40, I'm getting a fifth of that. It's 8-1. I'm getting.
It's an interesting experiment. It's an interesting experiment.
Bookmakers they look into this.
I'll do a euro on 10 golfers and see how I come out, and we'll talk about it next week.
Like a lot of bookmakers now in racing, they've changed their odds. So you could go into Paddy Power, for example, and all of a sudden you're getting a fifth of the odds, sort of 5 places, even though that's not actually the normal odds for the race. And you have to actually look at the terms now because they are kind of fighting with each other for little margins.
And it hasn't really been communicated to the punters.
Yeah, because
I found that disappointing. Said Cheltenham, what's this fifth of the odds first 5 stuff? This always was a quarter of the first 3. And
yeah, exactly. Because you think, well, I'm going to get the normal rules here, but that's not the case anymore. You may lose out because it's a fifth rather than a quarter. And obviously with golf, it's different, but you have to know your terms before you do your bet.
Big time. big time. You got to know your terms, odds checker.
Okay, so you're happy back in Rory on the basis that he's got his mindset right, he's got his lifestyle right. What about Tiger Woods, who, you know, was not going to be relevant again as a golfer ever, it felt like, when he was having neck fusion surgery, and now all of a sudden Tiger's on the prowl again, looks relatively healthy. Sure, there's a bit of back trouble, but he's okay with it.
He can. Is he likely to? In my mind, no. The press conference was interesting. The most interesting line I took out of it was, I can't practice as much as I used to. The back is still there.
That's not good.
That suggests to me that he's not, like, he can do a bit of putting, he can do a bit of iron play, he can do a bit of driving. He can't do it all at the hard limit you need to be. And we talk about margins in sport, even margins in betting. At the hard limit, I think he was wrecked after the Tour Championship at the Ryder Cup. And that would be my concern. He could come out and win out of nowhere, but are we going to see this consistent winning machine from Tiger Woods? I don't think so.
No,
I think the press conference was revelatory in that. You know, there won't be as much pressure on his driving in Augusta, which is not as important there. So he can definitely be thereabouts. But putting 4 rounds together is the question. A question I'd also have about Shane Lowry. Fred Couples has turned up at the Masters for the last 20 years. Old guy, aging beautifully like fine wine. And would have a great Masters, but he'd never able to do it over 4 rounds.
Also back injuries.
Back injuries, there you go.
Yeah, it's, what is Freddie? Freddie's always a good bet for first round
leader
each way.
Yeah.
500, 550 to 1.
Could be a good trade.
The Racing Post is a free betting guide to it as well today. I don't know if it's actually a pullout.
Steve Palmer is the guru. He's brilliant golf tipster. And
yeah, they have a pullout.
I was pleased to see the golfers I backed correlating with his this week. So I just love the Masters. I don't know about you guys. I mean, to me, it's my childhood. It's watching on the Sunday night, being allowed to stay up late. Miles Duggan, jumpers.
Miles Duggan, the days.
Sandy Lyle, Nick Faldo, Ian Woosnam, Al Athabal.
European golf suddenly getting good. And
you can bet on like a top 20 finish as well, top US, top 10 finish,
top nationalities. There's so many, enhanced win only, there's so many markets. And
the dual forecast, just in case you want to pick the second as well.
Yeah, that's pretty impossible, to be honest, you know.
6 million to 1 and we'll give you 4 to 1 odds.
Yeah. I started getting jealous when I saw one of the journalists posting a photo of a mini moon, which is a wagon wheel in the States. And I had the Masters kind of covering over it, and I was just going, I'm feeling this pain now that I'm not there, and that taking those home with me.
Where is Augusta anyway?
It's quite near Atlanta in Georgia, and actually the town isn't very, you know, it's not. The town isn't as well manicured as the course, shall we say.
Being polite, it's a shithole.
Atlanta's an interesting place, yeah.
I've been to Atlanta for a college football game bizarrely. And Augusta, it's very much their place. It's their club. You do not, just because you're the president, you don't become automatically a member. You're not allowed to run on the course. You'd be tapped on the shoulder if you do. You're not allowed to bring your cell phone anywhere. You got to leave it behind you. They've all these traditions like the Butler cabin for the winner ceremony, the champions dinner, which Patrick Reed served villainously yesterday with his ribeye and his tiramisu. The fact that the announcers, the commentators have to call the fans patrons, not fans. You got this Magnolia Lane that they drive up. It's a lot of kind of quirky traditions, and of course the green jacket itself being presented to the winners. So very hilly course. You don't see really that on the screen how hilly it is. Like the caddies are saying, it's one of the hardest courses to walk on for physically, and just so many risk and reward holes. Amen Corner. 11, 12. We have the water in the 13th and 15th, par 5s. And as the golfers were saying in the press conferences, it's one of these tournaments, because you're going there every year, you don't do that in other majors, where you just hear the roars elsewhere in the course. Yeah. And then who is that? Where is that coming from? And I'd love to be there right now.
So
as much as, you know, this is fun.
So you're
sloppy seconds we are this morning. You're
back in Rory, you're laying Tiger. It sounds like
I laid Manchester City last night, so my lane for the week is complete. I'm pretty comfortable about that.
You would have been pretty pissed off if Aguero's penalty was the decisive factor.
Yeah, I would have been, but it was early in the game. But yeah, I would have been. I thought we played very well, and I thought we deserved at least a draw, and we got a win. So look, what's going to happen next week, I don't know, but I thought they were good late, even money Man City. Here it is. I did this last year, and I had Patrick Reed at 50 to 1. That doesn't mean we're going to have any guarantee of success. And Patrick Reed, I think I had 4 golfers. So we spent €50 last year. Patrick Reed, we had 5 each way at 50s. We made a profit. So this year we've gone for 20 on Rory. So that is a 10 each way bet with Betfair for 13-2, 10 each way and Rory at 13-2. For top 10 finish, it's a no-brainer. You probably win it as well. Look,
probably win it is wrong.
Like, it's the Tiger Roll argument. Yeah. Like last week, I've got to think about something kind of, outside
too short.
the box.
You win no money on that.
You back Tiger Roll. So
my tenner each way.
Yeah, the obvious thing is Rory. He's the best golfer at the moment in the world. He won the Players' Championship. It's obvious Rory McIlroy for 10 each way. And the other two, John Rahm for 8 each way at 16-1. 16-1 for top 10 finish. He's around 18 with other bookmakers with Betfair 16s. This is my personal account, so you can back whoever with whatever bookie you want. And John Rahm was 4th last year. Has got the golfing intelligence, hits at miles. Has got a really good iron game, and I think
Irish Open connection, of course, when he won in
he's a beast. John Rahm. He's my man for the barroom brawls. And then the third one is Hideki Matsuyama of Japan for 7 each way at 25-1. He's I think 4 times a winner in the States, was once the second player in the world, Hideki Matsuyama, and has had really good finishes at the Masters. So 5th, 7th and 11th. Played well at the Players, was in the top 10. I think his game is coming back into form. You can't, as a golfer, keep it going forever. I think these golfers play well in 18-month streaks, and I think Hideki's streak could be coming back into vein.
Okay, so that's you 50 quid.
That's my 50 quid. 10 each way Rory, 10 each way Rory, 8 each way John Rahm, 7 each way Matsuyama. Do the obvious. I could be telling you lads at 200-1 and all that, but do the obvious.
Yeah. So one last question. For McIlroy not to finish in the first 10, you make a very good argument. For example, I see one bookmaker betting entirely on the first 10, 4-7, yet you're getting 13-10, which is a massive difference. What is going to go wrong? If I backed McIlroy in one tournament this year where he was basically one shot off the lead and totally blew it on the Sunday. I can't remember what it was. I'm not into golf. He won his following tournament, but he imploded that day. What can go wrong for McIlroy not to finish in the top 10?
He could be in the final pairing. That could be.
I'd be very disappointed, Johnny, if he did finish in the top 10 through another mental malfunction. Given everything I've heard yesterday and everything we've seen this year, there is we don't know. I'd say I'm 50-50 on the argument whether there's an issue with this guy at Augusta or not, right? And if he falters again, there's obviously an issue, and he might never win the thing. But and the more and more we have this discussion every year, the less likely he's to win it. But I think this year, I was with him last year. He nearly won it. He was probably too aggressive on the final day. This year, I think he's better than he was playing last year.
Where did he end up last year?
Fifth. But he was about to tie Reed for the lead on the second hole and missed a short putt.
Yeah. There was all that stuff beforehand. There's no pressure on me. It's all the pressure on Patrick.
Yeah, which was I don't think he'd do that. I don't think he'd do that again this year. He was rushing things, and I think that's why he's been doing all the stuff, juggling balls and going onto the CAM app.
The CAM app.
I'd like to see him juggling what are they? Skittles. That's real talent. Anybody can juggle 3 balls, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right, John, good stuff.
Thank you, guys.
Best of luck. Raf Diallo spoke with John McManus, the author of Welcome to Hell, about Hakan Şükür. Have a look.
This is a very complicated situation. Hakan Şükür is a sort of prominent supporter of a group of people in Turkey called Gülenists, who are people who support this preacher called Fethullah Gülen, who lives in America. And for many years, this group was quite close to particular people in the government in Turkey. But in 2013, they fell out spectacularly. And since then, there's been a real purge within Turkey of people who are associated with this group. And in fact, the government blamed this group for the failed coup attempt in 2016, and you might remember that in July 2016. It's very hard to know for certain if that's the case, but they are certainly seen in Turkey as being behind that. And so Hakan Şükür was quite a prominent person within this group, and like he kind of saw which way the wind was blowing, I think, and left in 2013, just before the real intense crackdown, and he's moved to California and he's essentially in exile. Yeah, he's been charged with many elements. I mean, in Turkey, there are thousands and thousands of people in prison associated with this group. He has been charged so can't return to Turkey, really. And it's important. A lot of people outside of Turkey, they think this all sounds like a terrible line from some sort of weird political thriller or whatever, and it's a load of rubbish. But this group is not a load of rubbish, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that they were very involved in football and also many elements of the state.
All right, I want to read that.
Yeah.
I've been to a game in Istanbul, and it was only pre-season. Galatasaray were playing Fiorentina. It was unbelievable, Ger. You just think, what must an Istanbul derby be like? You're queuing up at the tube station to get on the train, and I've never seen anything like it. It's extremely dangerous. The whole tube station is absolutely rammed, and once the train actually arrives, you're literally you're basically face against the train situation. And obviously, if you fall on the line below, you're dead. It's a live wire below you, and different gravy to the Premier League, I have to say.
Yeah,
they are pretty insane over there.
Yeah, you can't really compare these things.
Well, you can. I mean, it's still in Europe, isn't it? And Greece as well. PAOK Salonika, which is in Thessalonica, which is now part of I think what might be deemed sort of southern Macedonia, because Macedonia has changed to northern Macedonia, hasn't it? And Thessalonica, that part of Greece, is traditionally old Macedonia. But if you're ever bored, look up the PAOK fans, who Shamrock Rovers played a few years ago in the group with Spurs. Absolutely incredible performance what they put on. I really want to go to a game over there.
At matches?
Yeah, incredible. It's just choreographed singing throughout. Well, obviously with a guy facing the crowd who's getting the whole thing going, but the flares, the fireworks, just the sound and the real artistry of the music. It's really impressive. But I definitely want to go to a game over there big time.
I was at a game in Buenos Aires between San Lorenzo and Racing.
San Lorenzo?
Yeah.
So I saw I came across on YouTube one of their, the San Lorenzo.
Sorry, River Plate, not Racing.
Yeah. The San Lorenzo chant on YouTube is one of the most, I've actually tweeted it recently, it's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, and it's really, really catchy and rhythmic. South America, I'm sure, is well up there as well. It's a lot better than going to a game in Old Trafford.
They were bouncing up and down on barbed wire.
Yeah.
I love that. Barbed wire, you're bouncing up and down. What's in your system?
Love that stuff. But even at League of Ireland level, I think the atmosphere in League of Ireland is very, very disappointing compared to what it used to be. And when I was in the old days in Galway United, when everyone was standing in the stand, no seats, it was much, much better than it is now. Seating has definitely killed it in Tyroland Park, for one thing.
Yeah, you need a seated area.
Yeah.
And you need a standing area. Because the seated area, you should be able to bring your kids.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, there's no point.
Absolutely.
There's no regeneration. But you should definitely be able to go to a different area and stand and talk nonsense.
I didn't think I'd reference this, but there was a letter to the Irish Times on Monday which was given out about the Leinster-Ulster game, that basically some guy was given out that he'd get up so many times because people were coming in and out with beers. I was like, yeah, he makes a good point. And I thought he was going to go on the kind of an anti-booze crusade, but he goes, real fans know what to do. They bring a bloody hip flask they bring a hip flask, and it was like, okay, I thought it was this is an anti-booze crusade, but it's no. You bring a hip flask, you don't bother people by going, and I guess there's lots to be said for a hip flask on the cold days, isn't there?
Here's the thing. You reach a stage in your life where you're like, hip flask, that's stupid. And then you reach another stage in your life, you're like, a hip flask?
Yeah,
all along. It was right there in front of me. All I needed was a hip flask.
It's great. But the odd rugby game I've been to, it is quite remarkable how many people are drinking at it.
You're not even old, Johnny. I'm getting old. I'm now appreciative of the whole hip flask is a great idea. A little nip of brandy, which I always thought was disgusting, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you need of an afternoon.
It does warm you up as well on a cold day. A little bit of whiskey.
We've teamed up with Leia Healthcare, the official health and wellbeing partner to Leinster Rugby, to launch Wellbeing Wednesday. For the next 9 weeks, one lucky winner per week will win a Blue Book voucher for £250 for their very own wellbeing retreat. The winner this morning is Seamus Gagan, who correctly answered that Gordon Darcy scored how many points for Leinster? You're Leinster's biggest fan? Give me a spread.
Jesus.
Centre who didn't do much kicking, but once would have kicked drop goals in his early stages as a
Don't
winger?
remember that.
Before your time as a Leinster fan, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be so far off.
260 appearances.
260 appearances. I'm going to say something in the region of 1,200.
339
points.
Yeah.
260. So he's averaging. He didn't score many tries.
61 tries. A try every 6 games. He's a centre.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
6
I said
penalties,
I'd be way off.
4 drop goals, 2 conversions. So well done, Seamus Gagan. He knew correctly.
He googled
339 points. All 9 winners going to our draw. One lucky winner is going to receive a wellbeing hamper and a Leinster season ticket for the 2019-2020 season. So whatever happens at the Oireachtas committee today, we'll break it all down in the news round from 7 tonight on News Talk and across all of our social channels all day today, offtheball.com. What
do you expect to come out of this year?
I expect that there will be not that much resolution today, that there will be parts of it that they try and kick to touch, and they cite the various investigations. But
would you feel compelled to resign if you were John Delaney?
If I was the FAI, I would be ripping the bandage off today and saying, this is what happened, these are the details. Because if you kick it on another week, it gets to a point where it's too difficult to... That point I was making earlier on about if you're on the front pages for more than 3 days as a cabinet minister, the Tony Blair government was like, you get shot. I don't care who you are, what you've done, but if you're on the front pages and the stuff surrounds you, you've got to go. What is the future for Delaney in Irish football? What is the future for this FAI board in Irish football at this point if the funding isn't coming through? It's hard to know. It's hard to see any way out from this point.
Yeah, I know. Like Daniel MacDonald's kind of 2-page spread on Saturday was great newspaper at its best, kind of on a Saturday, great reading. But just the imagery that was used and how old the people on the board are was quite striking. But my knowledge of the FAI, which isn't very deep, would suggest that it's very dysfunctional in terms of how it operates, and very differential to the leader, John Delaney. And I would suggest that what will happen today will be quite an eye-opener, because it'll be very, very hard for 8 or 9 people, I think it's maybe 9 people, to be singing from the same hymn sheet when they're asked individual questions, because, we've seen that we've 2 completely contradictory statements in the space of a week about their knowledge of the loan. So there's something not right in terms of how it operates, and I think it would be good to watch it. It's also good to see how Oireachtas committees work, because they do actually important jobs. They certainly do help to expose things.
Yeah, well, we had Fergus O'Dowd in a little bit earlier on, and we were making that point, and he made the point that last week we were talking to him and said the first time that there was one of these committees where all the 3 sports organisations were in, everybody was grandstanding, and they used their 9 minutes allotted to basically make jokes and to appear on TV and to appear like the big man in front of with a few honourable exceptions, who had actually done their homework. And as a result, the meeting was short. People had to leave. Filibustering was allowed. No clarity, not from the IRFU, the GA, or the FAI on that day. And it was a really simple ride for all of them. So they changed the format. And now it's question, answer, question, answer, question, answer.
Yeah, because I've seen previous ones as well where it didn't work. But if you're the journalist who broke the story in the Sunday Times, you're feeling very proud of yourself, because you've brought something to the national agenda that is probably going to bring about a lot of change. And the other side of that is, if you're a politician on this committee today, you can come out very well from this and ask questions that do make a difference, and that's acting in the public interest. And we're basing a whole, station off the ball on sport. Sport is huge in this country. It matters to most people, to many people. We talk about it day in, day out. It matters an awful lot. The participation of young people in sport is hugely important for mental health, for physical health, particularly young girls as well. I think that's something that we really need to get going, where girls don't drop out of sport as much as they have been doing, and I think that's going to change. And in my view, the FAI has not been doing the job it should be doing, and I think today could be a big, rung on the ladder in terms of change. I think it's great that this is happening, even if it shouldn't be happening.
Let's wait and see what happens. That is live this morning across the Oireachtas channels from town. We'll tweet links to it and we'll embed it on a story for you. So if you need to get it anywhere, you can head over to offtheball.com and we'll bring it to you. As I said, more reaction from 7 o'clock tonight on the radio. Our Gaelic football show is live this afternoon, and episode 2 of our Game of Thrones podcast, Off the Wall, is live now. Andy, Lee, Owen, Tommy and Sue have been swanning around Winterfell. Are you a Game of Thrones fan?
No, I've just seen a couple of clips of it, and they look like they're having a good time in a beautiful part of the world as well.
Yeah, and the weather's amazing. Anytime I've been up to the North Coast. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not... there are definite issues with... there's like a couple of seasons of pure, unadulterated misogyny, which is just really hard to watch and pointless. You're like, this is not written by somebody nice. And then the books couldn't keep pace with the TV programme, and that all disappeared. Like, what a coincidence. What a coincidence. Anyway, we're back tomorrow morning from 7:45. More of that good stuff on the Game of Thrones podcast, except from people who care a bit more about it. Good luck.